What is that to thee? March 2015. Beloved one, I have noticed that you abide in love quite often, because that is where it feels good. But I have noticed also that sometimes you get into a place of separation where there can be a bit of judgment. Judgment does not have to mean that you are finding fault with someone, although it habitually is where the generational teaching has brought you, to say that someone should be doing something differently. That comes very quickly out of habit. I have seen you have a thought about someone or something they were doing or something they said perhaps, and there has been the instantaneous judgment of it based on generational teaching or past experience, and then I have seen you step back from it and say, well, that is just how they are. That is just part of who they think themselves to be. That is very good, because truly everyone is living their life the best that they know how. However, there are many times when there is a feeling that is overwhelming as to, am I good enough? And the judgment gets in there and says, well, so and so is really better than I am, and I don't feel good knowing that they are better at doing things than I am. That is a human reaction, and it is okay that you recognize it. There are times when you will look upon another one and say, I wish I could be more like they are. They don't seem to get so ruffled about something, and they just take it all in their stride. Well, maybe they do, or maybe they just keep it to themselves more, and you do not know how they are really feeling on the inside. Human reaction comes to you as a learning tool, because when you see traits and behavior in another one that you admire, know that is what you are working towards exhibiting, demonstrating for yourself, and it is good that you have so many teachers as friends. You look upon them and you see qualities that they have, that they are exhibiting, and you say, that is something I would like. You see, you have now moved out of judgment where somebody was right and somebody was wrong. Then you come to the place where you see everyone as your teacher, one who is exemplifying for you something that you can be or do or feel. You see then that you are not failing, because you are not. You have been at a place where the past experience has taught to you, or the place where the generational teaching has taught to you and said, this is how you should be. That is very deeply ingrained into all human beings. When you start out as the small one, you are dependent upon someone else to feed you, take care of you at first, and you look to them for your very existence. Now, in truth, the spirit of you is what is activating the body, but in the physicality of human life, it works better if you have someone who is nurturing. But you do not always have that. You have chosen lifetimes when you have known the hard knocks from the parents, from the ones you looked to for the nurturing, and they did not know how, because they had not known it themselves. It is usually the case that they have not experienced love and nurturing, otherwise, they would be able to pass it on. So they are passing on what they have experienced or how they have seen the world and how they have taught themselves that they have to be in order to survive, as they understand it. You have evolved from what your parents knew. And as your parents, they evolved from what they had known as small ones and what the generational teaching was for them. So if anyone has questions as to whether there is any evolution in consciousness happening, all they have to do is to look to the parents, look to the grandparents, look farther back in their history and understand how they saw life and how you now understand life. There is evolution of consciousness. So when you have messages from entities who seem to be not with body, outside of body perhaps, and they say to you these wonderful messages that there is awakening that is happening upon this plane, you say, oh, but my news media says that there is warring going on, and you can name all different places, and even with my coworkers and the ones that I associate with every day, sometimes they are not the most loving. So I am not sure that these entities know what they're talking about. The entities have a broader view of what is going on than what you have day by day, and evolution is happening. You can look at the parents and see where they were coming from, and you can see how you learned from them what not to be. All of the parents, all of the ancestors, all of the ones that you have grown up with are your teachers. They are teaching you either something positive or teaching you what not to be. You learn sometimes most readily from what not to be. You experience, especially with the parents, a lot of the lessons that you grow through. At first, when you seem to be dependent upon the parents, you accept their view of the world, for a while. But then you begin to ask, and you have done this, is there not a better way? Can there not be a way where I feel at ease and other ones feel at ease in my presence? Can I not, and you can, exhibit the loving behavior and have it accepted? You have tried this, and yes, you have found that sometimes ones will not accept it, because their teaching has been different than yours. Sometimes you are in a great place of love, and they do not want it. And you feel, what's wrong with me? That is usually the habitual first thing that comes to mind. What's wrong with me? Nothing is ever wrong with you, but you have bought and paid dearly sometimes for the gift which has taught you what not to be and what not to assume for yourself. You are much more than any of the human tendencies, the greatest of which is love. You seek it, and you seek to give it. And sometimes, as I have said, ones do not know how to receive it. They have not opened themselves to it. They have perhaps not even experienced it. And so when you try to give them the hug, and they step back and you almost fall over because you have lost your balance, you feel most embarrassed, because you did something that they were not expecting. Truly you are showing them a new way to be, and that is good. You have a story in your holy writings where my disciples were having a big discussion among themselves about how wrong the Pharisees and Sadducees were, and how some were not observing the true meaning of the law. After I heard this quibbling for a while, I said to you, what is that to thee? Follow thou me. In other words, you do not have to be looking and criticizing what they are doing. You do not have to be finding fault that they are not perhaps doing exactly what you think they should be doing. Follow the higher teaching. You have a very good saying that was most popular a few years ago. You even had the little bracelets and necklaces, what would Jesus do? WWJD. What would Jesus do? What is that to thee? Follow thou me. And I did not mean me as one Jeshua. I meant me as the Christ. Follow the Christ of yourself. Come up higher. Do not be in the petty place of criticism of other ones. You cannot truly criticize one until you have walked a mile in their sandals. In other words, until you have known their generational teaching and what they have had example to them from the parents and maybe even the peers that they have grown up with. Follow thou the Christ of yourself. Come up higher. Do not be down in the gravel with the other ones finding fault, as perhaps they have done. Allow yourself to see the Christ of them and to know the Christ of yourself, and to come from the place of love and acceptance of the Christ of them. Often I said to you as my disciples to look to the Christ of each one of the brothers and sisters, because that is their true being and their true heritage, even though they may be imbibing of the fruit of the vine a bit much to the place where the body is having to rest, to sleep it off, as it is said, or to the place where some get quite uninhibited and want to prove their power to everyone, showing that they can fight better, they can say more strong words, and they get into behavior that perhaps is not the most loving or peaceful. You look past that to the place where you see the Christ of them and you love them. Because you know that truly they are living from a place that has been example to them by ones who are the way showers or the ones who were showing them the way not to go. They will wake up at some point. It may be this lifetime, and one will hope that it is, because it makes life a little easier, but it may not be. It may be another lifetime when they come to the place of saying deep within themselves, I want to live a different way. I want to be loved, and I want to extend love. You may be present to see that, or you may not, but know that truly the Christ is going to be demonstrated eventually. It does not always happen right away when you would like it to happen. I know that sometimes you try out different relationships, and the one that you fall head over heels in love with comes and examples to you behavior that you did not expect, and you have to love the Christ of them, even though you may walk out of that relationship. Oftentimes ones have asked me, Jeshua, what do I do with this one? How can I love this one when there is behavior that is hard to get along with, criticism and even the physical threatening behavior? I have said that you do not have to stay in physical proximity with that one. You can love that one from afar, and it may be easier to love that one from afar than if you were right there taking the blows, either physical or emotional. It is okay to move a distance away from a relationship that is not healthy. Sometimes the body and definitely the emotions may be suffering. Therefore, take yourself away from that situation and love them from a distance, and you may find the most miraculous thing happening. Now, some are more armored in their shell so that you may or may not see the results of your love, but there are many who will respond as they go through life, and you may come to a place where there can be even the interaction with that one, where both of you have grown to a place of love. So it does happen, and you look upon it and you say, well, it's a miracle. I never thought she could be that way. Sometimes when you have made the sacrifice of leaving your relationship, it has been the very thing that they needed to see in order to question their behavior and their outlook on life. So sometimes by what the world has in the past called a failure, and you have never failed, the decision that you make can be the very catalyst that will show the other one, hey, there's another way to live. So do not judge self and say, I should have. The shoulds are very heavy burdens to carry, and you do not need the shoulds or the should nots. Many of your religions and your philosophical ways of looking at things have a list of should nots. I prefer the shoulds, if you have to have a should, the ones that enable you to see the good in everything. Because there is good in everything. Now, I know that is not what your world teaches you. Your world will teach you that it is a hard place to be, and you must armor yourself. And yes, you can love people, but sometimes you will not show it to them, because, what would they think? Well, it might show them a different way of being. It takes a very strong person, one who has confidence in himself, to come from a place of love and to show love. Because yes, you have been taught as the small ones, what will people think? And you want people to love you. After all, if they love you, then they nurture you. They give you what sustains the body and sometimes the soul. So you want to be loved, and you want people to like you. You want that positive affirmation from people. And yet the strongest person is a teacher to other ones by standing in as her Christ self and living from the place of saying, no matter what the behavior is, no matter what you say, no matter how you judge me, I still see the Christ of you, because I know that the Christ is what is activating the body. The Christ is what is allowing you to even turn your back on the Christ. And I love that part of you, even though that part is, as I see it, as small as the tiny acorn. I still acknowledge that in you. You walk this path of humanness in love and in practicality as well. In other words, you do not go around saying to someone, you are really a bastard, but I love you anyway. Well, you have tried that, and you have seen that it does not exactly get to the heart of things. So you have learned to walk the human path with love and a bit of intelligence. And when you use intelligence, it does not mean that you are becoming a wimp and that you have to couch everything in a way that will be accepted by them. You use a bit of common sense wisdom to know what they will accept and how they may hear it. You do not judge them about it, because you know that this has been what they have experienced, and they are only acting from a place of what they have experienced. And you do not try to goad them into certain behavior by speaking from a holier-than-thou place. That is not true love. That is a place that brings up old teachings for them, and you do not need to do that, because they have had enough of that. You love them, the Christ of them. There is a saying, a greeting that you have known from ancient times, Namaste, the Christ of me greets the Christ of you. The divinity of me acknowledges the divinity of you. When you can live in that vibration, it is felt by others, and it is like the watering of the plant that is dying of thirst. All of the brothers and sisters want to be loved. They do not know how to get it sometimes, and they will try to come in the back door and do the most horrible acting, cantankerous type of being, and yet they are the ones who are calling out most loudly for your love and your acceptance and even for your teaching as you example how you can stand in your love with them. So if ever you find yourself in a place where you might be saying, well, they should be doing X, Y, and Z, or how can they be so absorbed in that kind of thinking, and you find yourself in separation from them in judgment, what is that to thee? Truly it does not matter. Follow thou me. Come up higher in love. So be it. Yeshua ben Joseph, Jesus. Channeled through Judith Coates. www.oakbridge.org